So, what forms of regrets do people experience in life? And I'm going to be talking about them as well as sharing some examples that involve my own life here. So, people in general tend to experience regrets in a few recurring categories, and psychologists usually divide them into regrets of action, like, I wish I hadn't done that, and regrets of inaction, like, I wish I had done that, right? Opposites here. And over time, actually, what they found is that inaction regrets, the latter, they usually linger longer in life because they become part of the story people tell themselves about those missed chances, those missed possibilities and opportunities in life. All right. So here are some forms, some of the common forms of regret. So the first one that sticks out like a sore thumb, probably run into this one online at least, is like relationship regrets. So you'll hear people expressing that I wish I had shown more love toward my partner. Maybe that's why they broke up with me, or I wish I had shown more appreciation for my parents, to my parents, or maybe something involving forgiveness. Maybe I should have, forgiven Mike or something. Or another kind of relationship regret could be like letting friendships fade, basically drift apart. That's one of the biggest ones I've experienced in life. So yeah, I have experienced relationship regrets, and I guess the most common one that I've experienced is just letting those good friendships just slide, just disappear. And why was that? The main reason had to do with not so much, these friendships being toxic or anything like that at the time. It was just more about me. I was, you know, tired, fatigued, depressed. It was a time in like there was like different moments in my life where I was just mentally depleted, mentally gone, exhausted. I kind of suffered from depression, you know, on and off. I remember when I basically moved from one, I could say like my first high school to my second high school. I didn't bother to stay in touch with my old friends. I just deleted all their phone numbers. I know, silly and antisocial and crazy as it seemed, because I felt like, what's the point? I'm not gonna be able to hang out with them anymore. They live really far away. I don't drive. I'm only 15 at the time. And I also told myself, even if I did have a car like a year or two later, maybe they weren't interested in seeing me anymore because we don't go to the same high school. So what's the point? So that was one such experience I went through. And, when I became older in life, I kind of noticed the same thing happen again, but with like the people from my new high school. I knew them for, 4, 5, 6 years, a few years even after college, but then with a couple of them, I just let things drift apart because I wasn't doing well during university, and my mental health was just really battered. I had trouble finding work, including minimum wage jobs, and I was struggling the same way a lot of young people are struggling in today's economy, in today's world, right? So it was the same thing for me back in, that great recession of 2008. And, for some others, though, like maybe they may experience relationship regret if they're staying too long in unhealthy relationships, like toxic relationships, right? That makes them feel miserable. I wish I would have left this guy or gal like sooner. They're just crazy. You know, um, they've really impaired my psyche. Uh, and but for some others, it might have more to do with themselves, though, not others. Like, I regret hurting this girl. I shouldn't have said those words to her, or vice versa if it's a guy, and then never apologizing about it or something. A second form of regret has to do with career and education. Really common as well. So maybe you chose a safe job, something that involved security, over something that was more meaningful to you. Because imagine, like, you're an aspiring artist or an ambitious musician or something, right? Or you dream of becoming an athlete someday and, playing in the MLB, NFL, NBA or something. Well, that's the thing. You know that, like, if you want to do something you're passionate about, it's not going to be easy in most situations. And we could see over time it's getting harder and harder and harder. Like when it comes to the music industry, if you don't have connections, you're not going to make it. You're not going to become a millionaire or sell, millions of or thousands of successful copies of your album. It doesn't matter if you're an excellent guitarist, pianist, you can play the violin proficiently, you're a virtuoso or something. It's not necessarily guaranteed because of the nature of the business. It's changed, at least since maybe 2010, 2012, based on what one guy, I think it was Rick Beato, talked about in one of his vlogs. Anyway, so what people tend to do is they'll, maybe study something that's hard, but does put like food on the table, like medicine, law, engineering, programming. Well, programming, it's not what it used to be, but you get the point. So it's about security over meaning. They want something that's safe for them most of the time. They're not gonna, risk entering a field or a profession where they enjoy it, but maybe it's not going to pan out the way they expect it to be. Not pursuing a talent or an ambition could also be like a career related regret. And that, that's kind of related to the previous point I mentioned to some extent. Because if you chose one kind of work or line of work over something that you're more passionate about, well, there you go. You know, you may um, regret that if you do see like someone among your peer do find success in music, art, or sports or something, right? Or maybe leaving opportunities unexplored. You had some opportunities to try certain things, but you chose not to do them for whatever reason. Or you're working so much, you're such a workaholic that it just simply affects other parts of your life, right? And those other areas of life are important too, like the relationship with your spouse or partner or your kids. Or maybe you regret not being able to spend enough time with your parents because now they're old and they may pass away eventually, sooner or later. Things like that, or traveling the world. And yeah, that happens. Oh, now I'm like, 60 something. I'm not gonna travel. I'm too tired. I'm too exhausted. I should have done that during the gap year, in my 20s, blah, 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 that kind of thing. A third type of regret is family regrets. So we already talked about relationship regrets. That involves more like lovers, friends, those people, but family's family. So maybe you're not spending enough time with your parents, like I mentioned not too long ago, children, your siblings, like your brother or sister. Maybe you're missing important moments because of distraction or distance. So you didn't attend your son's university graduation, or you didn't take your husband or wife on, your 20th marriage anniversary or something like that, or you forgot about somebody's birthday. There's all kinds of important moments we have in life, and if you're really busy or if we're not paying attention, we're gonna miss them. And of course, other people will feel um, let down or even offended. And repeating harmful family patterns can also cause a bit of regret. All right, like maybe your father is an alcoholic and he beat you a lot, when you were growing up. So later in life, he may feel like, oh my God, like why did I do that? I messed up. Now my daughter or my son or whoever doesn't want to see me anymore. You know, they want to stay away from me now that they're adults. Or some other kind of patterns. Maybe you smoked in front of your brother or sister. And now you think any problems that they have involving illicit drugs and substances is because of that one moment. I shouldn't have, smoked that cigarette or smoked marijuana in front of my brother, in front of my sister or something, right? Uh, Regret can also be connected to your health. So maybe you've been ignoring your physical condition or your mental health for many years. We see this all the time. Like there's maybe a lady, she's in her mid 40s and she's morbidly obese. And maybe she notices like the people around her are mostly fit. Not too many of them are overweight or have similar issues. Well, if her joints are in pain and she has like some kind of severe neck and back related problems, it's going to be more difficult for her to consider whether or not she should try to lose weight or hit the gym or something and try to shed those unnecessary pounds. So it really depends on your mentality, but also can depend on your current situation. So you don't want, like, if there's something that's important in your life, like exercising your health to maintain that correct body fat percentage or weight, you don't want to wait forever because sometimes if it reaches a certain point, it might be just really difficult to change that situation because now you have serious health related problems, right? And who knows, maybe a person has breathing issues or organ related problems, damage, I guess. And then by that time, you feel like it's just too daunting. It's impossible. I can't overcome this. And same thing with mental health, because like if you're like my aunt who's depressed into her 70s and her kids are watching her, she, kind of didn't want to go outside after a car accident and she stayed inside for more than, you know, for nearly 2 decades. And so her kids were doing most of the shopping for her. Occasionally she would go outside, but now she kind of just suffers from symptoms of that PTSD. She didn't really confront the problem. Whereas my cousin, who was in the same kind of vehicular accident, a vehicle related accident, sorry, she did consult a therapist, a mental health counselor, a couple of them to make sure she's getting as much feedback as possible to overcome the issue. Whereas my aunt just never did that. So now she suffers from this trauma even today. Um, let's see here. And, other kinds of health related regrets or issues could be related to delaying medical care. Maybe you need medicine or you need to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, or something. Or maybe like a skin specialist because there's some issues with your skin. Maybe it's related to like vitamin depletion. Again, obviously, if you delay that, it's going to make the problem worse over time. And we can notice that with like maybe somebody who was diagnosed for cancer or some deadly diseases and they just refuse to get treatment. Well, if that's the case, there's a significant chance they'll be, harmed by that or even die from it. And chronic stress and burnout, like you experience these things, but you put them you put them aside, and maybe one day, you start feeling sick, you have breathing issues, and sooner or later, you run into an early heart attack or something. It can happen. I'm not saying it happens to everyone. Now, there's also in life moral or ethical regrets, right? This is about being right and wrong. So maybe you're betraying your values under pressure. So I have a friend, for as long as I knew him, he would brag about being very religious, very moral. And he said like, I take Christianity very seriously. I'm an evangelical Christian. Like I follow my religion to the T. And sadly, that wasn't always the case. He did a lot of things that I'd consider immoral or unethical according to his religion, according to his denomination. And he admitted that, like, more than a decade later. So he did feel kind of upset about that and did voice his regret. And one of that was just like becoming an alcoholic. His father was an alcoholic and died from dementia. And, you know, I think after his father's death, things just continued to get worse as far as that issue was concerned. Um, and, being dishonest, being cruel, being passive, being cowardly in key moments, these can also reflect like moral and ethical regrets. Think about the time we're trolling people on the internet. Think about the time when we're dishonest to our family members and our friends and acquaintances. Or sometimes when we're cruel to our pet animals, can happen sometimes. So during these cowardly moments, we can experience ethical or moral regrets. There are identity and authenticity regrets. So, you hide a part of yourself. You don't want people to know your true identity. You're masking maybe if you're neurodivergent like me. So you're trying to live according to others' expectations so that you can fit in, feel loved and accepted, perhaps. Maybe you're undergoing something like imposter syndrome. So you got this nice job, this nice gig, but you notice right away that it's harder than you had anticipated, and you think you're gonna mess up a lot because some of it requires training or at least extensive, rigorous self-study and troubleshooting, and you're not sure whether you're up for the task. So that's something to consider. Or maybe suppressing your sense of creativity or sexuality, right? You think you're like, okay, I know deep down I'm a homosexual, but I'm married to the opposite gender and I have 3 kids with them. And now it's difficult for me to come out of the closet, to tell my spouse the truth or something, right? So some people experience situations like this. I don't know what causes it. Could be many things, but yeah, for them it could be regret. Like I wish I lived with the gender I truly love or something, right? Um, or it could be related to your beliefs or your personality, right? So there's also money related issues like financial regrets. So you're in a lot of debt, you suffer from overspending, you're addicted to gambling, you're involved in a lot of risky decisions in life. So maybe you suddenly decided to buy, $100,000 of Bitcoin today, and that was your entire life savings. And then suddenly, come summertime, the price dumps from $81,000 per Bitcoin to something like $58,000. And then you freak out and then you panic sell and you lose a significant amount of the money that you invested in. Um, and other versions of financial regrets could be like not saving enough money earlier, not investing in the stock market or, certain kinds of assets earlier, not buying a house earlier in life, not prioritizing money at the expense of life satisfaction. I wish I didn't go to all those parties. It was a waste of money. I wish, I didn't spend thousands of dollars on this Lego collection or this video game collection because now I'm struggling in life. My checkings account and savings are being depleted. I went through an emergency chemotherapy and now there's nothing left. A lot of things can hit you from out of nowhere. And equally important to financial regrets, right? Money related regrets. There's time related regrets. So wasting years, those golden years, those precious years in indecision, fear, resentment, or routine, right? You were afraid to enter a career path because people told you that you would fail. You didn't want to run your own startup because your neighbor told you 9 out of 10 businesses they don't make it. So why bother? You're not gonna make it. You're a loser. You're not that smart anyway. Blah blah blah. Negative sentiment all around you, and you just buy it. You lap it up like antifreeze at a petting zoo. So there's that. And for some people, it's just living a routine lifestyle. They wish maybe they went on vacation or did other cool, fun things in life. And maybe you might realize it's too late to do the things that you wanted to do that would have been enjoyable because of how limited time is. Oh, I'm 45, 50 years old. It's too late to travel. It's too late to enter a relationship. It's too late to make new friends. It's too late to go back to university and change majors. Some people think this way, but maybe it's not too late. But it depends on your mindset. Okay. And there's also this feeling of missed experience regrets, right? Like this could be anything. A common one I see people complain about a lot is like, man, this sucks. I'm still a virgin. I wish I asked Kylie out when I was 15 during the first year or freshman year of high school. I think she might have liked me, but I was so nervous, anxious. I didn't want her to reject me, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't bother. I was just too anxious, blah, blah, blah. So that could be something, right? Again, maybe you didn't travel in your 20s or some other time when you were younger, and now you feel like it's impossible because the world's unsafe, or it's too expensive, too costly, or people are cold and rude. It's hard to find a good tour. Maybe the country you were thinking about traveling to, they experienced war, and a lot of their heritage sites were damaged, destroyed, ravaged by the war. So that can affect you. And it could also be stuff like creating stuff, like your own business, your own art, right? Or exploring places. Maybe you thought about, you know, visiting some cities, some areas that you're always curious about, like that cave that's 10 miles away from your home, but you never had the chance to go there and explore it. Or taking other kind of chances in life, like maybe I should have accepted to run that startup with that guy Tony from college because he was a very smart guy, but I was too lazy to take up his offer. Or, you know, I should have combined my money with that other lady when it came to that real estate investment idea. Of course, things could go wrong too, right? But people have these like kind of missed regrets in life, whatever they are, whatever they could be. And again, like I reiterated, I pointed out earlier, the reason they avoid some of these situations is simply because of fear of failure or embarrassment, or maybe they think something bad's going to happen to them, right? In one shape or form. So that's what really holds them back. Like, for example, let's say one day you were kind of feeling invigorated or you regained your enthusiasm to look into med school. You're 32 years old. And then suddenly, maybe 2 days later, you get high or something. You smoke weed or you're drunk. And then you have this unusual realization that, oh, wait, you're introspecting. And then you tell yourself, if I try to go to med school, uh, I won't, it might take like 7, 8 years if I want to make it. It's not easy. So is it worth investing that much time? It's like, 20% of my life or something. So if you suddenly have like such invasive thoughts, that's going to hold you back. Now you just give up on that goal, that aim. Or something similar, like let's say you tell your neighbor, you were a fuck up, or you feel like your work or your current goals are taking you nowhere. So suddenly you decided to become a lawyer or doctor, like I mentioned, and then he tells you like, "I'm sorry, man, but personally speaking, I don't think you're gonna make it. You're not serious. You know, if you were serious, you would have done this. You would have gone for it in your early 20s or something." So maybe somebody kind of shares disrespectful feedback to you, right? Well, then you might sometimes, some of you might internalize their words, at least if you respect them, and say, oh, maybe he's right. He knows me better than I know myself. And you have low self esteem, low self worth already, and that person's negative remarks have really put you down further. So, people take words seriously sometimes, and that can lead to a regret or opportunity. And there's also existential regrets. So, feeling like one never truly lived intentionally with purpose. In my entire life, I just lived to work. I never worked to live. So, I was a workaholic. I worked as an electrical engineer for 30 years of my life, but I never partied. I never traveled to any cool countries like Egypt, China, India, wherever. I never, smoked weed. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but maybe for some people, something like that could be, um, you know, some kind of like not living it up kind of thing. So think about parties, traveling, maybe playing paintball when all their peers or friends were playing it when they were 20 or something, or some other stuff, right? I wish I joined that tennis group with my coworkers, 6 years ago, because now they all play competitive tennis, right, at that country club. So there's all kinds of things, and just in general, reaching later life with a bunch of unresolved questions about what is meaning to you, what is purpose, what is contribution. Did you feel like, or do you feel like um, you're working towards these, or have you done any of these? If not, then you feel like there's an existential regret, right? You feel like there's no meaning to your life. There's no purpose or higher aim. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you feel like you're not self-actualized. You haven't contributed to anything. You're no Elon Musk, right? You're no whatever, Freddie Mercury. All right, so Um, yeah, those are 10 kinds of regret. There could be more, but these are just some common ones. And there's something else I want to mention. There's also a difference between something like sharp regret, where it's just tied to a specific event. I should have never said that. Like maybe you said something bad to someone, right? And there's also a diffuse regret, so a broader, more general life feeling. I never became who I wanted to be, right? I envisioned my life that I'd be this CEO figure, or I'd be like a doctor that everybody goes up to for life advice, everyone respects, admires. But I am a doctor today. However, my family and friends and acquaintances, they don't like me. They're jealous of me, or they don't hold me in much regard. So it's all a matter of perspective too, sometimes, right? So some people do experience these kinds of feelings and regret. And there's like some broad domains when it comes to regret, like foundation regrets, like I didn't build stability because, like, for example, let's say you've been living in an apartment or a hotel for your entire life. You had an opportunity to buy a house and invest, but you just chose not to because you didn't want to put a down payment on it at the time. You thought it was just like a waste of money. Or maybe it was related to careers. Like, so you could have become a doctor, but you chose to become a nurse. And now you feel like, oh my God, like if I went the other path, I'd experience less burnout, at least in the long run. In the short run, I'd experience burnout when it comes to both of them. If I did end up becoming a doctor, my life would have been much easier then, later on. But rather, I went the nursing path. Or boldness regrets, like I didn't take the chance. So maybe you had an opportunity to do something, whatever that something is, travel, meet a new person, enter a new relationship, someone was interested in you, but you didn't go for it. Or moral regrets, like we just mentioned earlier today, you did something wrong and it's against your beliefs, values, norms. And connection regrets, right? These are the people in your life. So, I wish I didn't, let my friends and close acquaintances drift away. I'm so dumb. Even though I was depressed, I should have done better because it's not easy. Now I realize it's not easy to make new friends as an adult, blah, blah, blah. So you have these kind of thoughts in your head. Anyway, I'll leave you with this. One of the striking things about regret is that it's often less about the pain itself, right? Because that's the stereotype people typically have. When you experience regret, you experience pain. The two are synonymous. Actually, most of the time, the way we kind of view or experience regret is that it's more about the contrast, this kind of mental gap, right? Or understanding gap or space between the life someone lived. So think about your current life situation today, everything you've experienced up to now, and you will experience moving forward, and compare that to the life that you could still imagine having lived. Because we have two kind of people when it comes to regret. We have somebody who mostly doesn't experience or think about regret in their life. They're mostly content. They're mostly satisfied, happy about how life turned out for them for the most part. No, I'm not saying 100%, just mostly for most issues. While on the other hand, we have people who feel, when it came to most of the situations they experienced in life, it caused them to feel regret. So more than half of their life experiences are connected or shaped by regret. So it depends, what kind of person you are, right? It's kind of like saying like the glass of milk half empty or half full. It all comes down to point of view to some extent. I'm not saying that's the entire picture, but it does affect your perception or understanding of what regret means to you. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.